Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to the channel. Like I had said last night, tonight we're going to concentrate on the pump and the intermediate assembly. The intermediate assembly consists of, you have your forward planetary and forward ring gear, or front planetary, front ring gear. You got your sun shell, you got your sun gear in here, then you got your rear planetary and rear ring gear right here. This is exactly how I removed it from the intermediate shaft. As you can see, I needed the intermediate shaft, if you remember right, to do the overdrive assembly that we did last night. If you guys missed that, I will link it up top. And this entire build is going to be on its own playlist on the channel. So if you guys just want to see the transmission build only, just link that I'll link that playlist right up here. As I'm doing them, I'm adding them also to the second gen Cummins playlist. So, and also once again, I want to say thank you to everybody who has used the Amazon link to do their shopping, normal shopping at Amazon. It's greatly appreciated. It does help the channel immensely. This build right here is getting a little bit more expensive than what I thought it was going to, but you know what? All this stuff's expensive. That's something we need to expect. So, like I said, we're going to concentrate on this. This is really the only three things left with in the build itself that we need to check and do some assembly on. The pump, there is a bushing in here we need to take apart and change. And then there's also your rotary pump inside here. We can check that. There's some tolerances and stuff to check within the book that we can check. What I'm running into is my feeler gauges only go up to 38, I think. 38,000, something like that. So if you guys are going to be doing this, you're going to want to get the next step up as far as the feeler gauges. Get some thicker ones, because I've been having to stack mine, making it thicker, or use a dial caliper and do it that way. Other than that, gonna do the intermediate build. I'll show you the disassembly. I mean, it's already apart, but all I did was pull off the snap ring and then pulled the whole assembly off the intermediate shaft, and this is the way it sits on the intermediate shaft. So we're going to move this stuff out of the way and go ahead and take that apart piece by piece, and I'll show you some of the things in there that you're going to want to replace. Before we get started here, I just wanted to show you what I have set up here to hold my intermediate shaft in place. This is actually a bearing puller, and I just use the portion that goes under the bearings only, set it up on my weld table, and I have clamps on each side, and then I tighten it up just so it's on this taper right here, the intermediate shaft, and that will hold that for me in place, and it's actually working out pretty good. For all this stuff, they make tools that you can do this assembly with, but for someone like me, just like my PVC pieces that I was using, I know I had a couple of comments last night that they were afraid for me sticking my fingers in there, putting those pins on that spring. Trust me, it was in the back of my head when I was doing it also. What if that would break it or let loose? But anyway, they make tools for all of this stuff, but for somebody like me, or maybe you, this is something that can be accomplished at home with just a little ingenuity and a little know-how. All right, within my kit are all of these thrust washers and also this bronze spacer here. That goes in the low reverse drum back there, so that'll get replaced. This plastic one is in there from the factory. We'll use this bronze one in its place. So like I said, you pull your snap ring off first, then you can just pull this whole assembly off if you want to. You want to pull your forward planetaries out, and just like the other pieces, go ahead and check these, check all your gears and your teeth, make sure there's no pitting, no galling. Check them, make sure they're nice and tight. No up and, there should be just a little bit up and down movement, but no side to side movement. And then there's going to be a thrust washer inside here and a thrust washer on this back side that goes inside the sun shell. So I'm going to set those in place just like that. That way when we put them back together, we know which thrust washer to put where. Check your sun gear, make sure there's no chunks out of it. There should be 2 bushings, one on each end. Everything looks pretty good on the bushings, no burning. And then you have your spacer and some planetaries here also. I think there is supposed to be a thrust washer inside here that is missing. And then there's your rear ring gear. Before I put anything together, you can see just a little bit of rust that was starting on this sun shell. I want to take some memory cloth or something like that and clean this up, clean the inside of it up. Got another thrust washer there too. That's what all of these right here are for. All right, we're gonna start with reassembly. You grab your rear ring gear after checking everything out, making sure everything's good to go. Get it cleaned up. I've talked to a few people. I'm not going to go ahead and finish welding these out. I don't think that I'm gonna make the amount of horsepower it's gonna take to split that out of there. So we're just gonna go ahead and put it back together the way that it is. If we were making stupid amounts of horsepower, then yes, I would suggest welding this rear ring gear the rest of the way around. But for my application, I think the factory is gonna be just fine. So you wanna drop that in place. Then grab your rear planetary, the proper bushing, using just a little bit of grease to hold it in place while I drop it in place. You grab your sun shell next. Put your bushing on top of your rear planetary. Drop your sun shell in place. Grab your thrust washer that you need for your sun shell. Put it in place. Then you can put in your front ring gear. Grab your thrust washer that is needed for putting your spacer. It's a split ring spacer. And that'll slide right over top of this. And then grab the thrust washer needed for the front planetary. And then just like the last one, I'll put just a little bit of grease on there just to hold it in place while I set it down in the ring gear. Now that is all done, we can take our snap ring and put it back in place. Alright, with that assembly complete, I want to check my low reverse drum, make sure there's no pitting or any material stuck on there. If so, just clean it up with an emery cloth, red, green, gray. I had these in the house, so I'm using these. This here feels pretty good, don't need anything there. We'll go ahead and check the low reverse band, make sure there's no chunks missing out of it or any discoloration or any burning. This one looks pretty good, so we can go ahead and put this back in there, and then this will be ready to go back in the housing when we start the final assembly. Alright, here's the pump assembly. We're going to take these 6 bolts out. We'll check the rotary pump inside, make sure it's all good. This has nylon seals on it. My kit came with the steel seals, so we'll go ahead and put those on in this place. But my kit that I saw did not come with a new spacer, so I'm going to have to make sure and search out and see if there is a new spacer in there. There was a new spacer for the input shaft, but it did not find a spacer for the pump itself. So we'll go ahead and pull these seals off, set those to the side. We'll go ahead and grab a 1/2 inch and get this top half of the pump pulled out. Right here's your rotary pump. There's your inner gear. And here's your outer gear. We'll check all of this, make sure everything's good on it, make sure there's no pitting or galling. Then the pump itself. Everything looks good. There is a bushing in here that we need to change, and that just goes down just below the surface just a little bit. Right here's a new bushing, so we need to get something and get that knocked out of there. And then there's also a seal right here too that's got to come out to get it replaced. Alright, with the seal out of the way, we'll clean inside here. Really good. And we can knock this bushing out from this side here. Alright, with everything cleaned up, you can see those 2 notches that they put in right there. After you put your bushing in, they want you to key it over with a punch in these 2 areas right here. So we'll go ahead and put this in place, and it goes just below surface. You can see there's a little bevel right on this edge right here. It goes just below surface and rests in there. Alright, with these bushing in place and keyed over those 2 little spots, we can flip it over and go ahead and put our seal in. Alright, everything checks out okay as far as the pump. I'm going to grab just a little bit of transmission fluid and lube this stuff up before I put it together. Now when you put this portion of your gear in, you can see there's two different sides. That side has a little sharp edge lip on it, and this side is nice and smooth. You want to make sure and put this facing down towards the converter entry side. So you want to put it in like this. That way when your converter comes in through that end, it has a nice entry point into this rotary gear. We go ahead and put our pump back together. Make sure and inspect all these little journals right here. Make sure there's not going to be any leaks there. And then your bolts get torqued to 13 foot-pounds. Grab our new seals and put on here. See if I got a new plastic spacer, and then we'll be ready for assembly. Alright, with these seals in place, we can kind of do a mock assembly here. So you got your direct drum that goes on your pump, and you got your input shaft. It goes down on top of your direct drum. Then you have your intermediate that sits on top of that. Alright, there is kind of like a final mock-up assembly of everything as it will sit inside the cases. Now obviously this will sit on the outside on the top right there, but I went ahead and slid it on there just to kind of get a good idea of reference points and stuff like that. So right there is on how it will sit. One other thing that I was kind of had a little concern on was the input shaft itself. I forgot to say something the other night. So what I noticed was how loose this is. I don't know if you guys can see that movement right there. So what I've done is I ordered a new Belleville spring inside there to try and take up that play under extreme pressures. I've heard of people saying that that Belleville spring has turned itself inside out with that apply piston. So I went ahead and picked up a new billet Belleville spring. So it should be here Thursday. So I won't be able to, you can see that right there. That play should not be in there. So we're going to try and alleviate that. One other thing that I saw is this apply piston. You can get thicker apply pistons, and that will help take up that slack also. So we're going to start with the Belleville, and then I'm also going to call a couple places tomorrow and try and ask them about different thicknesses of apply pistons and see if that will also take care of it. Alright, with that, I think that's pretty much going to do it for tonight. Everything is ready to go. With the exception, we're going to save the valve body for last. I'm still just a little intimidated on doing the valve body, so I'm not 100% certain that I'm actually going to do it. These two pieces right here are going to be replaced. I'm only going to be using the spring and the retainer on that one, and that one right there just needs a lip seal. So the two servos are getting replaced. That rear servo, the only thing that needs to have is just a lip seal replaced on it, and we should be ready to start putting things back in the case maybe tomorrow. I do have to wait obviously to put the rest of the stuff in there. Probably won't start tomorrow. Maybe we'll work on some stuff underneath the hood, getting it buttoned up, but or not even close to buttoned up, but start putting some stuff on there. but I need to wait for that bell spring to get here and see if that takes out that play, and also possibly going to have to order a different apply piston. That way I don't have that movement within that forward clutch housing and the input shaft. So I think that's pretty much it for tonight, guys. If you don't mind, hit that like button, give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you have not already done so, and we'll talk to you guys later on.